The Third Side of the Coin, brought to you by XCaliber Coaching and Consulting.
Hello, and welcome to the Third Side of the Coin podcast, episode 4, Leadership and Bringing People Along. My name is Aberle, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Tim Wong. I'm the president of XCaliber Coaching and Consulting, a leadership and career coaching firm that partners with current and aspiring leaders going through career transition and looking to find ways to build a world of better leadership. My co-host, Tim Wong, is a content curator focusing on thought leadership for YPO and defining learning themes for programming globally relevant top leadership learning events. He is also an international faculty of the Art of Living Foundation and the International Association of Human Values, teaching courses since 2003 on consciousness and meditation. He specializes in the corporate leadership workshops.
Glad to be here, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing good, given the circumstances that are happening in today's world. Today, we wanted to talk about leadership and bringing people along. And I just want to open up with this quote from a Canadian author, Robin Sharma, who said, "Leadership is not about a title or designation. It's about impact, influence, and inspiration." So what does leadership and bringing people along actually mean?
Bringing people along is really communication and framework. So in previous generations, bringing people along is the command and control approach. But now bringing people along is more about collaboration and inclusiveness. So it's a complete change of from before it was a pyramid, command at the top and control. It's now inverted. So the individual becomes an empowering stakeholder or influencer in the team or position that they're in. So when the individual is empowered and you're looking at an entire organization, it becomes very important that we bring people along. Does that mean, telling people what to do or influencing people what to do? I mean, it's a bit of both, depending on what you need to get done.
And I think it's a major shift. And I know I've been talking about human-centric leadership for ages. And even when I was a leader, I probably have taken different approaches from the typical command and control, perhaps because when I was younger, I was a bit of a rebel and anti-authority, but I wanted to make sure that I've impacted the individual's well-being. And what I found is when I concentrated more on the human needs within the organization, they performed better. And I do believe that creating such an environment where people feel like they belong and are willing to engage is going to be important, probably more so important than it was before. And I'm sure you've heard that statistically speaking, that only a third of workers feel the greatest sense of belonging in the workplace. And I'm always going to remind it and go back to the quote from A.M. Forster, who was asked the secret to life, and his response was to words only connect.
Yes, at the workplace, we don't see the individual, we don't see the human. We only really see as a person who is delivering or performing a task. But in anything about humans, or if you see a human before you, you immediately want to connect with them, talk to them, engage with them, whether you're introvert or extrovert. But when you come into the workplace, especially in a place where we congregate, do we see the human, or do we just see a means to getting things done? So the conversations happens very, very, very differently. I mean, not too many people address this. I mean, we do hear people say, well, see the human first. But when you have to get things done, there needs to be a certain responsibility and accountability into it. And then obviously then it leads into command and control. But responsibility and accountability can be self-driven if you are clear and you empower the individual and make sure that the individual knows how critical their role is within the grand scheme of things. And my own experience is that a lot of times we're either too busy and we're trying to get things done, or we do not appreciate the bigger picture or the grand scheme of things, so we feel disconnected. It's pretty much like, you're aware that you're in your own home. Are you aware that you're part of a neighborhood? Then are you aware that you're part of a suburb? Then are you aware that you're part of a city, a part of a state, part of a country, and then part of the world, part of the galaxy, part of the universe? So not many times do we actually take that consideration. What was very interesting for me today was I was doing a meditation, and part of the meditation was really to take an assessment of where you are at this present moment, of everything, of what has happened to bring you to this present moment. So we were brought from what is happening right now, which is like listening to things around you, what your physical feeling is, what your mental state is, and what your emotional state is, all the way to, are you aware that this universe was created just for you? This galaxy was created just for you. This solar system was created just for you. This earth was created just for you. And this country was created just for you. This state, this city, this house, this room, this chair was all created for this moment at this present stage to happen, so that you're aware of it. And that immediately, created that sense of gratitude and fulfillment and contentment of realizing, wow, we usually don't think that far. So when you're bringing people along, have you made them aware of the things that goes around them and the things that they also contribute towards it? So for example, yes, I already outlined from the universe all the way down to this chair I'm sitting on, to the way I'm feeling that present moment, all that had to happen for me to experience that thing. But equally, none of it would have had any meaning if I wasn't there. So when we're bringing people along, it's also making the individual value that it will not happen without them. We need to start seeing the value in others. We do see the values in others, but let's make it intentional. That is bringing people along, and being a bit compassionate as well, because, we're not perfect. I don't think anyone is perfect. And to realize when you're bringing people along is that as you're good at something, you just keep swimming around in the same pond and you become an expert. It's through that same pond, but it's limited. So if it's limited, then are you actually expanding yourself? So the collaboration, the bringing people along, is to enable you to be from being a specific expert and jumping out of that pond to see something even greater and bigger, and to create that curiosity in you, which we talked about in our earlier podcast about curiosity and performance and potential. It all relates to one another, and where you make the entry depends on where you want it to be. It's very fascinating.
Indeed. Where does the leader start? To me, it means the ability to influence somebody to evolve, and it probably is, somewhat related on a smaller scale, right, to what you're saying. I feel like it's an important point to start, for someone who is leading and influencing people to accomplish some type of mission or goals within the company. They first need to become self-aware, to understand their limitations, potential for growth. And we have a lot of managers who probably have never been truly trained at what that self-awareness truly mean on the bigger scale, and how important it is to truly continue working on the awareness and your belonging in the world for people to truly start trusting you.
Self-awareness, it's such a big term sometimes. I like to call it simply leadership. If you don't know how to lead yourself, how can you lead others? From that, it leads to an overused word is authenticity and vulnerability, right? A great leader is someone who, I believe, recognizes their own vulnerability, embraces their own vulnerability, because they recognize that they may make mistakes. And at the same time, accept other people's vulnerabilities, not as weakness. Unfortunately, our human phenomenon is that when we show our vulnerability, we show our weakness. In fact, I don't think that that is the case. In fact, you need to show your vulnerability in a positive way, that you are willing to learn, that you are willing to grow. And that's all about what a great leader is about, or a great individual, continuously learning, lifelong learning. And it comes from self-awareness. It's a circular experience. I become self-aware when I realize I can't do something, or I can do something really well and I want to improve on it. In both cases, you want to improve on it. So that sense of wanting to improve comes from curiosity. And that's what self-awareness is. How do you nurture it? That's just taking interest in things that you do or things around you. It's just taking interest. It's taking interest in life. Even if you're depressed, you're still taking interest in life because you're depressed about it. So and on that realization, that self-awareness that you are depressed, there must have been a stage when you're reflecting or becoming aware of your depression that you weren't depressed. Otherwise, how can you recognize it? So I believe it's very much sometimes based on your willingness to look within yourself, and we're not taught to do that. Well, not when I was growing up. It was much like, you need to have that certain exterior, or the inscrutable oriental.
Yeah. And I really grew up in the society where it was really demand and control. People needed to follow certain rules, and there was no gray. Everything was black and white, right or wrong. And it reminds me of the story where one of my clients, let's call him Greg, he was put on the performance improvement plan of sorts and was given only a couple of months to get his act together. And his managers told him that the way he was leading the group, and a lot of people actually were leaving the team, really did not work. And as he was telling me, I was picking up on the statements where he was saying, oh, those people just have no clue what they're doing. They're not capable of listening to directions. I told them what they needed to do, and they just still didn't get it. So, and as I was kind of listening to the words that he was saying, I thought of a quote by Dwight Eisenhower, who actually said, you do not need to lead by hitting people over the head. That's assault, not leadership. I knew that it wasn't necessarily because Greg was a bad person. The history demonstrated that what he learned from his own leaders when he was a successful individual contributor and was promoted was that style of command and control. And he believed that people just needed to follow his rules and such, but that it doesn't work. People have options. Even in bad economic conditions, people have options. They can leave and find another job. And the reason I wanted to bring up that story, Tim, is that you mentioned bringing that into the awareness. And sometimes we wait until something bad really happens to start noticing that however we operate, whether it's managing the team or just leading our life, needs to be improved. We need to continue evolving. How do we break the cycle where The individual contributors are following the leaders who had that type of style, and now they're mimicking it instead of getting that individual perspective on how to lead people
To
better.
hear more, go to part 2.